Welcome to another Crypto Task Force, and I'm the Chief of Staff of the Crypto Task Force. Welcome to another Crypto Task Force Roundtable. Today's panelists will be helping us to understand the intersection of distributed ledger technology and financial surveillance and privacy. Public permissionless blockchains facilitate radical transparency. Every transaction is recorded publicly on the distributed ledger, which by default means that any curious member of the public or government can view all transfers of value from one address to another. And although these transactions are pseudonymous, savvy investigators can often draw inferences about who owns what and who's trading with whom. Information that can be of great value to good and bad actors alike. In today's roundtable, we'll be hearing from a number of technologists, entrepreneurs, lawyers, and advocates about how we should think about the balance between transparency and privacy, and between important government interests like national security and criminal deterrence, and fundamental American values like privacy and freedom. Legal and policy discussion of these issues needs to be informed by an understanding of the technological innovations that may help balance these apparently competing interests. Accordingly, some of our panelists will discuss specific technologies, projects, or products that are designed to achieve this balance. Please note the fact that discussion of a specific product or technology by any of our panelists today does not serve as an endorsement by the SEC of the project or the technology or of any affiliate of the project. The Commission does not endorse or sponsor any particular securities, issuers, products, services, professional credentials, firms, or individuals. Today's sessions will be moderated by Yaya Fanusi, who leads global policy engagement and regulatory strategy at the Aleo Network Foundation. Mr. Fanusi has more than 15 years of experience spanning government, policy, and the private sector across finance, national security, and blockchain innovation. Before joining Aleo, he was Director of Policy for AML and Cyber Risk at the Crypto Council for Innovation, where he still serves as a senior advisor. Before I turn the podium over to our commissioners, I would like to remind everyone that this event is being streamed live and is being covered by multiple media outlets. Accordingly, please be aware that all remarks by Commission officials, participants, and members of our audience will be on the record. In addition, please remember that the participants in today's roundtable speak on their own behalf and that their views do not necessarily reflect the views of the Commission, the Commissioners, or members of the Commission staff. We're ready to begin. Mr. Chairman.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us. And Richard, thanks for your introduction to the conference. Let me first begin by thanking Commissioner Hester Peirce and the entire Crypto Task Force for organizing today's roundtable. I should also like to thank our distinguished group of panelists who are brave enough to come to Washington to provide their thoughts on financial privacy in the 21st century. But before I provide my own thoughts, I must echo what Richard just mentioned, that I must note that the views I express here today are my own as chairman and do not necessarily reflect those of the SEC as an institution or those of the other commissioners. Today's roundtable participants will wrestle with a question that, at its core, is a profoundly American question. Whether people can participate in modern finance without surrendering their privacy, This tension raises important questions. On the one hand, the federal government has an obligation to protect Americans from national security interests and threats, including through measures such as the Bank Secrecy Act, which Treasury and other agencies use to deter illicit finance. On the other hand, being free to conduct one's affairs, including financial affairs, free from government and other surveillance, is a core American value. Crypto has been a forcing function. providing a unique opportunity to consider this question in the context of 21st century technology. Since January, this administration has highlighted the importance of restoring power to individual Americans and entrusting them to manage their own affairs, including when it comes to crypto. For our part, the SEC must confront its own record in balancing investor protection and privacy. The Commission has established tools like the Consolidated Audit Trail, swap data repositories, and Form PF that it asserted were necessary to protect investors, detect fraud, and safeguard our markets. Unfortunately, the federal government's insatiable desire for data has expanded these tools in ways that increasingly put the liberty of American investors at risk and saddle them with costs that too often provide little benefit because the government does not even use all of the information that is submitted. For example, while the Commission created the CAT with a good intention of providing a clearer view of trading across markets, it became a powerful system that moved the SEC closer towards mass surveillance. That is why we have taken steps to scale back some of CAT's most sensitive data elements and to re-examine its scope and its cost. Friedrich von Hayek, in his book, The Fatal Conceit, decried the belief of many in government that the solution to problems is to get enough smart people in a room and then collect enough information that these all-knowing people will somehow forge a perfect solution to the problem at hand based on all of that information. Well, we've seen how poorly, maybe never, that has actually worked in practice. So how right Dr. Hayek was. With the advent of crypto, it's no great leap to imagine a steady migration toward a future where the government and a constellation of intermediaries can peer into almost every dimension of an individual's financial life. While regulators may have a voracious appetite for data, that proclivity is obviously and fundamentally incompatible with the kind of free society that has made America great. Regulators must therefore remain humble and principled as we embrace the opportunities that crypto presents. In the analog era, financial surveillance was naturally constrained by paper records, physical distance, and manual processes. These delays, while inconvenient for the government, naturally limited how much information the Commission could obtain about any American investor. However, these constraints have dramatically diminished in the digital era, which is why today's conversation about crypto and privacy-enhancing technologies is especially important. Public blockchains are more transparent than any legacy financial system ever built. Every movement of value is recorded on a ledger that anyone can inspect. Chain analytics firms are already exceptional at assisting law enforcement with linking on-chain activity to off-chain identities. In other words, pushed in the wrong direction, crypto could become the most powerful financial surveillance architecture ever invented. Indeed, if the instinct of the government is to treat every wallet like a broker, every piece of software as an exchange, every transaction as a reportable event, and every protocol as a convenient surveillance node, then the government will transform this ecosystem into a financial panopticon. At the same time, this technology allows for privacy-preserving tools that the analog world could not provide, such as zero-knowledge proofs, selective disclosure, and wallet designs that allow users to prove compliance without handing over their entire financial history or personal details to intermediaries or to the government. One can imagine systems where a regulated platform can demonstrate that its users have been screened without the ability to retain a permanent person-by-person map of every payment, trade, or donation. These tools will also help our markets to continue to function smoothly as they move on-chain. Complete financial transparency inherent to public blockchains can disincentivize important financial markets activity. For example, many institutions depend on the ability to build positions, test strategies, and provide liquidity without instantly telegraphing that activity to competitors and to predatory traders. If every order, hedge, and portfolio adjustment was suddenly visible in real time, we could invite front-running, copycat behavior, and pile-on dynamics that make it harder, not easier, for firms to manage risk. Market making and underwriting become far less attractive if every inventory balance or client flow is immediately exposed to the marketplace. This technology makes it possible to balance the government's interest in deterring threats to our national security and the American public's interest in privacy. But to best strike this balance, we must make certain that Americans can use these tools without immediately falling under suspicion. Shielding the lawful activity of our citizens from bulk surveillance while still ensuring that our government can perform these essential functions is the best way to protect both national security and our basic civil liberties, while also giving room for innovation to flourish. So the stakes here are high, and the questions before us carry profound and enduring implications. As we begin this roundtable, I am eager to hear more from our panelists about how we as a commission can protect Americans' privacy, as well as how crypto's privacy tools can lessen rather than increase the need for mass financial surveillance. Together, I am confident that we can shape a framework that ensures that neither technological nor financial advancements will come at the expense of personal freedoms. Unfortunately, other obligations are going to prevent me from attending the entire conference, but I'm thrilled to have been here to see you all today. And anyway, I thank you for your time and attendance, and I look forward to a robust discussion ahead and to reading what you all have to say. Thank you very much.
Well, good afternoon, and let me echo the chairman's thank yous to the Crypto Task Force and the many others for organizing today's event, as well as for all of our panelists and participants, both here at the SEC, as well as those watching the live stream. Today's roundtable on financial surveillance and privacy focuses on a topic of fundamental concern to Americans. American history reflects a deep skepticism with regard to government intrusion in the private lives of individuals. Our founders sought to protect this interest in liberty by enacting the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which safeguards the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects from unreasonable searches and seizures. However, as Justice Antonin Scalia noted in his 2001 majority opinion in Kyllo versus United States, quote, "It would be foolish to contend that the degree of privacy secured to citizens by the Fourth Amendment has been entirely unaffected by the advance of technology," unquote. The question, he continued, is what limits are there upon this power of technology to shrink the realm of guaranteed privacy? Technological advances promote financial market efficiency by decreasing transaction speed and increasing personal convenience. Today, individuals can transmit funds to family members and friends via mobile phones, while also employing such technologies for more complex financial transactions, such as protocol staking in crypto assets or storing value in such assets. In addition to offering speed and convenience-related advantages, such technologies can also reduce the need for intermediaries. These attributes raise questions insofar as how the Bank Secrecy Act should be applied or revised. Surveillance by governmental and private entities raises fundamental questions about the nature of individual privacy, as it should. Indiscriminate collection of vast amounts of personal data is inconsistent with a framework that values privacy and financial independence. The sheer scale of individual personal data that can be gathered and aggregated creates a tantalizing opportunity for abuse. This data can reveal sensitive information about financial and personal habits and individual preferences. The rise of new financial technologies means that we must continuously evaluate how to protect privacy and individual freedom for innocent Americans, especially when there will always be criminals and other bad actors that seek to use such technologies to harm others. How does the government balance the need to protect society against those persons while preserving privacy, freedom, and liberty for others? Furthermore, to what extent can financial technologies be used to increase individual privacy? Can tools such as zero-knowledge proofs provide verification tools while enhancing privacy rights? We must strive to promote a financial system that is both innovative and respectful of privacy and individual rights. Effective regulation can strengthen financial markets, promote economic stability by isolating wrongdoing, and protect consumers while permitting the development of innovation that creates desired services and cost efficiencies. However, we should be mindful of not permitting a regulatory framework that creates an omnipotent financial surveillance system that instills fear of constant monitoring in every American. So thank you again very much for your time, especially coming to DC in this very, very cold, on this very cold day. Thank you for making it through all the ice and snow.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Ueda for your remarks, and Richard for kicking us off. And thank you all for joining us, whether in person or online. We're excited to be here for our 6th roundtable today. Thank you especially to our moderator, Yaya Fanusi, and the panelists, the fabulous panelists that you'll be hearing from later today. And happy Bill of Rights Day. Last time when I spoke at length about privacy, I told the story of my grandfather in a telephone conversation of his that ended up being not so private. But my other grandfather lived on the other side of the ocean in the northern part of the Netherlands in a province called Friesland. And during the Nazi occupation, a German officer knocked on the door of the house, and he said he wanted his girlfriend to live in that house. So my mother, who was a very young girl at the time, was paraded in front of this German officer, and they said, "Look at this little girl. There are many more runny-nosed children where she came from. Are you sure you want your girlfriend to live in this house?" The officer did not want to do that, which was good because my grandfather, as an opponent of the occupiers, certainly could not have one of them living in his house. So even in less dire times, when the stakes are much lower than they were there, the idea of having an uninvited stranger living in your house, watching everything you do, is completely unthinkable. In this country, people have an expectation of privacy in their homes. The law sets up barriers to make it difficult for government surveillance of people suspected of no wrongdoing. But oddly, similar expectations and protections of privacy do not exist for our financial lives. The lack of privacy is in this area of our lives is puzzling. After all, a walk through someone's financial transactions will tell the government or someone else looking potentially even more about someone than would a walk through her house. Legal developments, most notably the third-party doctrine and the decades-long cultivation of an anti-financial privacy ethos in our national consciousness, has made mass surveillance routine when it comes to our financial system. People assume, often correctly, that the government is watching their financial transactions, and they shrug it off. "I have nothing to hide," they say. Our national degradation of financial privacy and the rules that embody it are overdue for a change, and crypto is helping to nudge a reassessment. On the one hand, crypto opens new possibilities for transactions without financial intermediaries that are central to our existing financial surveillance paradigm. Tokenized securities transactions, for example, can occur without the intermediation of a broker. As our personal transactions become increasingly disintermediated, government will receive less information about those transactions from their traditional channels. On the other hand, as has been mentioned, the public blockchains on which many crypto transactions take place are viewable by everyone, which creates a demand for privacy-protecting tools. Accordingly, as crypto usage increases, the public and relevant government agencies need to rethink when and how financial transactions are surveilled. Deep thought about financial surveillance and privacy issues as they relate to cryptocurrencies is not new. Some of our panelists and others like Ian Myers and Matthew Green have been thinking about these issues for many years, but new technological developments are broadening the conversation. Accordingly, the recently passed Genius Act, which regulates centralized stablecoins, directs Treasury to identify innovative or novel methods, techniques, or strategies that regulated financial institutions use or have the potential to use to detect illicit activity such as money laundering involving digital assets. That process is underway. Also in process are efforts to develop tools to enable law-abiding citizens to live private lives and protect themselves from bad actors. Some of them have been mentioned already today: zero-knowledge proofs. Mixers are another example where they enable people to make charitable donations, get paid, lend money to a friend, or engage in other legal transactions without telegraphing them to the world. And decentralized physical infrastructure networks, or DePIN, provide essential services without a central actor who can withhold these services to from disfavored people. At today's roundtable, we'll hear about these and other new technologies designed to protect the privacy of transactions occurring on public blockchains and to streamline compliance. The SEC does not endorse any particular product, of course, but understanding how these technologies work will help inform policymakers as they seek to address the threats that face this nation without undermining our civil liberties. Several themes should guide the government's work. Government should not assume ill intent when people take steps to guard their privacy. Protecting one's privacy should be the norm, not an indicator of criminal intent. Government should resist the temptation to force intermediation for the purpose of creating a regulatory beachhead or facilitating financial surveillance. Relatedly, the government should avoid imposing regulatory obligations, including Bank Secrecy Act obligations, on a software developer who does not have custody of users' assets or the ability to override users' choices. Additionally, government should pursue bad actors who use privacy-protecting tools for nefarious purposes while protecting good actors who develop and publish these tools and the law-abiding citizens who use them to protect themselves from bad actors. I look forward to hearing today from builders and policy professionals as they discuss how we can use new technologies to protect the nation and to preserve the liberties that make this nation so special, including the freedom to live a private life. What better day to have this conversation than today, Bill of Rights Day? Yaya, I'm going to hand it over to you and to the rest of the panelists, and we look forward to the discussions. Thank you.
All right, we're going to have our speakers come on up. Happy Bill of Rights Day, everyone. And a lot has been said, and as everyone gets set up, we're going to give everyone up here a chance to speak. And just so you know, everyone here is involved in innovation. I think what the
members, my fellow industry representatives, guard our values 10 years as a researcher and an entrepreneur. I founded and currently run a company called Espresso Systems that builds the tools needed to migrate mainstream financial services onto more efficient, safer, and global blockchain rails.
And from here on out, we will have slides. Our speakers will be speaking to slides, so you can see that on the screen. Zuko, take it away. You've got a few minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? Well, thank you all for being here in person and online. I'm Zuko. I've worked for about 30 plus years in the field of computer security, and I think of privacy as just one aspect of computer security. And I prepared some slides mostly to show you how Zcash works. But first, a message from my mom. So my mom called me a couple days ago. She was real excited that she heard I was going to come talk here. And she said, I want you to tell them the following. And so I wrote it down. Now, my mom is 77 years old. She was born in 1948 on a small family farm in New Mexico, and she spent her whole life teaching grade school children and middle school children and me, my brothers, and now she's teaching her grandchildren. So we should listen to her, okay? Here's what my mom says. Number one, mass surveillance makes us a guinea pig. This hasn't ever been done before.
Yo, tell me this is not real. This dude is for real at the SEC building? Reading a fucking text message from his mom. Yo, crypto has come a long way. The crypto bros have made it in.
Number two, not all amendments affect everyone, but the Fourth Amendment affects everyone who has a computer and a phone. And then she said, the Constitution guarantees us freedom against unreasonable search and seizure, but now it is happening and there isn't even a judge who signs off on it, and it is wrong. My mom.
Mama Zuko, she's coming through.
Okay, so I'm really glad to be here. The first thing I got to get out of the way is that so Zcash. Okay, first I got to tell you what Zcash is. Zcash is like Bitcoin, which is an open, decentralized, open source system. Anyone in the world can run the software on their computer. And when they do, their computer becomes part of the Zcash network. No one can stop them. They don't need permission from anyone. And Zcash is like Signal with the end-to-end encryption. You guys know how Signal works? I'm going to assume everyone knows how Signal works. It's end-to-end encrypted. So if someone sends you a message to your phone, then only their phone and your phone are the only copies of that message that anyone can see, thanks to end-to-end encryption. So Zcash is a combination of Bitcoin open network and Signal end-to-end encryption. And and the other fact about Zcash is there's only 21 million Zcash coins, just like there's only 21 million Bitcoins. Now, we created Zcash 10 years ago at this point. Along the way, we had to productionize this technology called zero-knowledge proofs, which I think every speaker has mentioned so far. We took it from being a theoretical computer science idea to being a industrial-grade product that you could rely on. And then, a few years ago, under the former chairman Gensler, we received a subpoena saying my then company and I personally were being investigated for fraud. And I was angry about that, and I'm still angry about it because it was unjust, and it was an insult to my character. And doing that, well, I called this person I respect and trust who probably knows everyone and everything in the crypto industry. And this person told me, I think every crypto company in America has received that same subpoena. And he said, I actually suspect that their motivation is just to bleed innocent American crypto companies with legal fees. So that's another reason I'm angry about it, is that it was not protecting, it was harming Americans by that. So at great expense for our tiny company, we answered, sent them all of the information that their subpoena requested, and then we never heard back. Until now, when the new SEC has invited me to explain Zcash to you. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful to that. I'm grateful to them for inviting me here for this. Okay, so in 30 plus years of working on computer security, I've come up with one simple thing I want to tell you today. It's not about privacy. Privacy is sharing less information, and that's good sometimes for some purposes. And this is not, the most important thing isn't transparency. Transparency is sharing more information, and that's good sometimes for some purposes. What I think is the most important thing that this new technology brings up is agency. It's who chooses what gets shared and what doesn't get shared. Who chooses? And that's the number one thing I hope you take away is in every other, someone's advocating for a policy or they're pitching a product, I want you to think to yourself, in this policy, in this product, who chooses? That's the most important question. Okay, now for the meat of my talk. How to Zcash. There is this wallet that is not made by me or my company. The people who make this wallet have nothing to do with me or my company. It's just that it's the easiest wallet to use to experience for.
All right, chat. I don't know about you guys, but I'm honestly feeling like this conference from the SEC might be a mother trucking fugazi, So I want to make sure I get at least one good panel out to you guys per evening. I mean, we've been watching this one for going on 30 minutes, and I've only taken down 3 notes so far, and it was when Chair Atkins was speaking about the freaking surveillance and how they're going to use crypto to freaking monitor everybody. Come on now. So I might call this one it for the night and go back in the chat real quick in the research section in the Discord and pick another one. So if we come over here, if you guys are new here to the CyberX research live stream that we're going to be doing moving forward, heading into the new year, on days that myself and Aqua aren't on podcasts on Friday, we are just going to tap into the private CyberX research section, where the researchers all day, every day, 24/7, 365 are sharing all the non-mainstream crypto-related research, all the panel discussions that have hardly any views, all the updated topics and summits that take place that nobody really pays attention to, where you got the likes of Brad Garlinghouse and all these other CEOs and all these high-end people from the IMF and World Bank talking on stage. Yeah, they're all in the CyberX Discord. So that's what we're going to be diving into. I'm just going to be picking random ones that the CyberX researchers share and streaming at least, they're 30 minutes a piece. Some are hours long, 1 to 2 per evening or every other evening. So make sure that you guys tap in. But I mean, look at all this good, juicy stuff. We have the Interledger Summit 2025 live stream that took place in November. Let's just go see how many views this has real quick. 18 views, y'all. Are you kidding me right now? 18 views posted 1 day ago. Interledger Summit that took place Mexico 2025. The full day one conference, 5 hours and 14 minutes inside the private CyberX Discord right now. Like, this is the type of stuff that we're constantly sharing. And there are thousands of these panel discussions that happen. Again, all updated. Like, I'm pretty sure this guy right here is from Stellar. Let me click on this real quick. The Blockchain for Europe conference that took place 2025. This posted 1 day ago, y'all, has 3 views. Let's check this one out. This one looks like it might be, they're talking about stable coins. Who's on this panel? Let's see. Oh, okay. We got the policy director of Ripple. That might be interesting, depending on how much he speaks. Asset strategy, KBC. We might hear some stuff about RLUSD in this. Regulatory Council at Paxos and the OMF-IF. We could maybe give this a 10-minute listen. If they start saying anything interesting, we'll stay. If not, maybe we'll switch it up and try one more for the night. Chat, what do you guys think? You want to run this one? Give me let me get 2 flames in the chat. And if we get 2 flames in the chat, we'll click on this one. If not, we'll go back to the Discord, do some more digging, see what else we got for today. The researchers shared like over 100 freaking panels over just the past 48 hours. So we got plenty to choose from. That's one. Victor, give a fire. Let's go. Who else wants to tap into this one? If not, we'll change it. We'll switch it. All right, cool. That's 2. We'll run it. We'll run this one for maybe 10, 15 minutes. I'll skip the introductory so we can get past the boring stuff and see if they got anything juicy for us tonight. Make sure you guys got your notebooks out. I'm taking notes. I took a couple of good notes from Chair Atkins earlier talking. Yeah, let's get it in. Let's run this one real fast for a couple of minutes.
Where we landed is, at least when I think of a global reserve, I think of
in good time. Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah, my name is Lewis McClellan. I'm the head of content for the Digital Monetary Institute at OMFIF. And today I've got this fantastic panel with me to discuss stablecoins and the we'll come up with yet. But Nick, I wonder if you could kick us off and just talk a little bit about, what are global reserves, where they're held, and if you see stablecoins potentially displacing that in the future.
Sure, yeah, happy to talk about that. My name is Nick Gersh. I'm Senior Regulatory Counsel over at Paxos. We do primarily stablecoin issuance. So as was alluded to, when we were thinking about what this topic would cover, we were all kind of puzzling over what stablecoins' role would be as a global reserve. And I think where we landed is, at least when I think of a global reserve, I think of an actual reserve backing asset. And the reality is that in the short and medium term, stablecoins are probably not going to be in a position to be a global reserve asset anytime soon. I think what's much more likely is we will have things like tokenized treasury bills, tokenized money market funds, and other tokenized core reserve assets that then go into backing something like a stablecoin. So I think if you look at like the hard definition of what global reserve means, we're not really at the point where stablecoins are going to get there, I think, in the short or medium term. But that doesn't mean that stablecoins can't still serve as a global reserve in other contexts. And I think that's where this panel discussions ultimately will end up going. And that means things like serving as a reserve for payment use cases, settlement use cases, and other related use cases that we more commonly think of stablecoins serving sort of right now, and I think we all anticipate really exploding over the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I think that's a very good way of putting it. And I think, I mean, one of the things that we do at OMFIF is talk to a lot of central banks, and every year we do a survey of central banks on the reserve allocation, things like that. And we've started to throw in the question of if you consider holding digital assets, including stable coins, in the reserves, and it is, well, they don't, almost unanimously, they're not yet at that stage. So it might come to fruition, but I don't think we're in a position where it's in the near future. But as Nick said, there are still a lot of uses where stablecoins have some unique qualities. Katrina, can we talk a little bit about the unique value stablecoins have in settlement?
For sure. For me, the key value proposition is that stablecoins being powered by borderless blockchain technology, they're a perfect fit for global economy. Essentially, what we have today is payment systems that are regional and fragmented, and we made them work for a global economy by patching them with chains of correspondent banking relationships. And this is what makes cross-border payments expensive, slow, and also very opaque. Just to paint this picture in more concrete terms, for a EU-based company trying to pay a 5,000 euro invoice, the costs of paying that invoice if your supplier is outside of the SEPA region are something like 12 times higher than if your supplier is within the SEPA region, which then obviously then also ends up affecting SMEs in a disproportionate way. This increase in costs in cross-border payments for SMEs can be a deal breaker on whether you do business with a certain international counterpart or not. Holding that or having that correspondent banking relationship is expensive in itself. It requires respondent banks to pre-fund accounts with their correspondent institutions. This means this leads to trillions of dollars in tied capital, which could be put to better use by these businesses. So this carries a very big opportunity cost. And since today we learned that the world is obsessed with AML regulation for crypto, it's also worth pointing out that the fact that cross-border payments are today happening via these chains of cross-border relationship or of correspondent relationships also makes payments a lot more opaque, which goes directly against any objective of AML and CTF regulation. It's actually one of the big motivations behind the recent revision of Recommendation 16 by the FATF. It's the realization that payment chains are often in effect broken into several domestic small bits of information, which means that financial institutions end up not actually having access to identifying information about the end customers behind the transaction. And stablecoins being borderless money really removed the need for this complex web of correspondent relationships powering cross-border payments. Actually, as Commissioner Albuquerque alluded to before, stablecoins kind of make even the concept of a cross-border payment obsolete, right? It doesn't matter whether the payment is domestic or not. And so that carries a lot of advantages for international payments. It makes them cheaper, faster, a lot more transparent, which is great for businesses, but also for the regulatory objectives that we're working towards. I think this audience doesn't need a lot of convincing about the power of stablecoins as a settlement asset. I think a good question also for us to reflect on is what is between this potential or the realization that this is such an obvious product market fit, stablecoins for cross-border payments, and actually reaching the full potential of stablecoin adoption. I think today we capture something like 0.03% of the business payments market. Why is that? Why didn't we make a significant dent in that market yet? And some of that we believe is related to the workflows that we need to build around it for authorization, payment context,
or tokenized deposits. But Matt, can you start off there? Obviously, we're in the context of a regulatory environment that doesn't allow yield-bearing stablecoins. But
yeah, I mean, to respond to the question, stablecoins are quite a poor reserve at the moment. They're quite a poor store of value at the moment, and that's because they typically don't pay any interest at all. So it's the digital equivalent of holding cash under your bed. You can't earn a return on it compared to other assets in the economy. The reason for that, as many of us know, is that regulators around the world have restricted stablecoins, so they're not allowed to pay any interest. The reason why they do that is because they are concerned about the risk to the banking system. So they're concerned that if stablecoins were an attractive store of value, people would take their deposits out of the banking system and put them into stablecoins instead. And the risk there, as Dirk alluded to earlier, is that then you undermine the provision of credit to the economy. So there's a sort of a genuine macro.
Yeah, that's actually kind of crazy what he just said, because he kind of just admitted this is, again, that representative from Ripple that right now, they're kind of halting this innovation because the banks are scared of a flight out of the traditional financial system. That's low key, a little eye opening. Like, they 110% know that the masses really control the financial system. And then it all relies on our awareness, because if we all become awake and aware, imagine if there's a couple, 100 people on this call on different platforms. There's a couple of you guys, but we're all awake and aware of the fake fiat money system. Well, the average person, especially in America, at least I know in other jurisdictions, the educational and financial system is a little bit more, expanded, because not everybody has a top tier financial system, especially in third world countries. But most people in well developed countries don't really have an understanding and awareness of the traditional financial system and how it's all a freaking house of cards. So that was really great to hear from this dude, Ripple. I wanted to skip to this guy, Ripple, because I don't have too much time tonight, but I'm going to play out the rest of what he says here.
Economic fear that is behind that. I mean, I would tend to argue that those concerns are somewhat overblown. The idea that people would simply move their deposits into a stable coin. I would point out that you actually have significant channels that operate like that in the system today. So, you've got, for example, money market funds, which are fully backed, liquid claims in the same way that stablecoins are. You've also got e-money. You also have narrow banks, which are banks that back themselves fully with central bank reserves or highly liquid assets. So these sort of forms of money or quasi-money already exist in the financial system today. Stablecoins are economically quite similar, at least as compared as a store of value. So I don't see why stablecoins would pose a significantly greater threat than these sorts of claims that are already available out there in the market today. So I think this debate about whether stablecoins should be allowed to pay interest will keep rolling on. It's particularly lively in the US right now, because the incumbent banking sector have been pushing back strongly against the idea that stablecoin holders will be able to earn any kind of yield, whether that's paid by the issuer or even paid by the intermediaries, where people might be able to sort of stake or lend their stablecoin. So yeah, this debate won't end anytime soon.
Nick, yeah, please, should hear from you on this as well.
Yeah, I would go even a step farther in saying that, at least, and this is where I say that I'm representing my own views and not the views of Paxos specifically, at least within the US, I really view the prohibition against yield as purely driven by the banks. I think it is purely an attempt to protect themselves from what they view as encroachment from the stablecoin market. And so you see the result of them not quite getting their way in the language as drafted and passed in Genius. We will likely have litigation in the United States as a result. I think you will all see in the coming months a lot of very angry letters from banking trade orgs. You've already seen a bunch already. I think you will see litigation. Because the reality is right now in the United States, the way it works in practice, and though Genius isn't in effect yet, is that issuers cannot pay yield. That's the prohibition under Genius. But Genius does not speak to distributors making payments, reward payments, marketing payments. And so functionally, you see a lot of the accrued value from stablecoins passing on to token holders while maintaining compliance with the strict reading of Genius. And, again, my personal view is that makes a lot of sense. Stablecoins, if you are just holding the stablecoin and not receiving any form of the economics of it, is you are giving $1 to someone else and you are losing all the economic benefits of holding an actual dollar. If you do not receive any of that interest generated from the actual token, then you are just giving someone $1. And that's not the system that I think is effective for global economics. I don't think that's an equitable system. I think that's a system that really just enriches, a handful of players and allows certain companies to have more revenue per employee than any other companies in the world, and doesn't actually benefit sort of what I view as the ultimate goal of widespread adoption of stablecoin, which is a equitable and valuable payment system.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that. But
in a very intellectually inclined way, that dude pretty much just said, if you're not earning yield on the digital assets that you hold, particularly in this case, stablecoins, they're pretty much worthless. So that's exactly what we've been talking about inside the Cyberworks 1228 Club. Like, earning yield is the new sexy, especially in this digital era where yield can be compounded 24/7, 365. It's going to be mandatory in the future for us to generate yield. And when one large financial institution does it, which they are, they're all going to have to do it in order to remain competitive and, advantageous in this new digital era. All right, so we've been on this stream for about 45 minutes. I don't have too much time tonight, guys and gals. If you guys are new here, don't forget, we are going to be heading into the new year and starting off at the end of 2025 when myself and Aqua are not on podcasts on Friday. I'm going to make an attempt each week, at least every other day, to jump on evening podcasts with you guys and just stream the CyberX research channel. There's literally hundreds of panel discussions, updated video breakdowns, summits that take place from regulators, systemically important people, banks and institutions that operate in the space. I mean, it's an everyday thing. Documents from the largest organizations, pretty much all the non-mainstream research that people should be paying attention to, but never do. All that can be found inside the private CyberX Discord. We'd love to have you on the team, guys and gals, if you're not already locked in with us. You all can always head over to cyberxtrading.com and access all of this research every single day, every day of the week yourselves. But if not, then I will see you guys on the evening calls here, or we're just going to stream some of the panels. I was going to play this one. I know this guy, if I'm not mistaken, is from EMA. But this one is called Tokenization and the Views of Europe's Regulators. That would be very interesting to see, just kind of the state of the ecosystem. Tap in. These are some of the recent ones that were shared today via the researchers. Nonetheless, many blessings to you guys. We have a holiday stretch coming up. I am in the process of traveling. Akko was getting some things together on his end. So that is why our podcasts have not been taking place on Friday evenings. If you guys are new here, as always, do us a favor, smash that thumbs up button and subscribe. We'd love to see you again. Heading into the new year, this is definitely what we're going to be doing, spending some evenings with you guys, going into the research section in detail, maybe even opening up some of these documents that we have shared by the researchers that are very in-depth. But with that wrapped up, as always, be cognizant out there. Please be aware. Make sure that you guys are tapping into real research, not the mainstream hopium and hype. Looking at the macro, this was actually a really good podcast real fast before we head off. If you guys want, this one is obviously, of course, inside the CyberX research channel, but you can go over to the Milk Road podcast over on YouTube, give them a subscribe. Only 395 views from just 2 days ago. This one has a really great gentleman here speaking to you guys about the macro environment and kind of just what's weighing on crypto prices right now, the sentiment overall, and how it has nothing to do with the underlying technology. I was going to stream this one tonight, but I'm out of time. Always be cognizant, guys and gals, and I'll see you all maybe tomorrow evening or over the weekend. You all take it easy, and I'll see you guys next time.